Hi, this is AJ with Popcorn Robot. Where most people get stuck when they're learning how to code is they feel like they understand the syntax. They can even read the code, but for some reason, when they try to answer a problem, they can't answer it. And so a lot of people call that tutorial hell. So we're gonna go over three ways that you can go from a beginner programmer into a intermediate coder. Okay, so number one, you got to go from passive to active learning. So the reason why these people get stuck is because they're passively learning. What they're trying to do is they're trying to just read it and trying to understand what it's trying to say. But reading and doing is very different things. Reading is like, you read like, oh, how is Steven Spielberg making amazing movies? But then executing is being Steven Spielberg. And even though it feels like once you understand what he's doing, that you can execute, those are still a huge gap in between. So what you have to do is really become active with your learning. When you read something and you follow a tutorial, you actually have to be active in how you do your work. A tutorial tells you to do something, you want to kind of change it and do your own spin on things so that you really understand the relevance and importance of what you're trying to do there. Number two is you gotta do practice through repetition. Man, a lot of people don't realize how much practicing through repetition is important. They think that once they learn something and they do it once, then they got it forever. But in actuality, it takes a long time to drill that into your long-term memory until it's a skill. So you have to practice at intervals. What a lot of people think is that you can sprint study, but it actually doesn't work. And we all know this because when we go and take a class, a lot of times for the finals, we will sprint study for the final, and then 2 days later, you probably can't recant any of that information. And that is a pump and dump, right? So that is because you didn't practice through interval repetitions. And when you do interval repetitions, what you want to do is actually have space to forget, because you want to learn something, forget it, recreate it, learn something, forget it, recreate it, and learn something, and so on and so forth, until you can reassemble it from any point. And that's what repetition does. It's allowing you to recreate something even when you're not fresh with that knowledge. And lastly, number three, you got to create a system to debug problems. So a lot of people don't understand what do I do when I get stuck? And what it is that you want to kind of look, you want to treat your code, you want to look at yourself kind of like a scientist, and you want to treat your code kind of like an experiment, and you want to change things, and you want to kind of test things and see how it reacts. And by deconstructing the code, it will allow you to kind of shed light to where the problem is, where is the issue. It takes time to get there, but you need to kind of learn how to break these things apart. Once you can create a system that you can kind of uncover where the problems are, then you effectively don't really run into that many bugs anymore. So that's why you need to have a system, and you need to kind of zoom out and watch yourself and see what process am I doing, and have a regular process where you are actually solving problems by exposing how where the issues are. It's really difficult to do this if you're doing it on your own. That's why finding guidance is really important. If you can find guidance, having someone watch over you, it helps you. So that's why Popcorn Robot is really amazing, because when you get stuck, we can kind of come in and kind of create that boundaries, those systems, so that you can remove these roadblocks without going the wrong direction. So those are the three main things I would recommend for you if you want to go from a beginner to intermediate. You want to, number one, you want to practice through active learning. Following tutorials is great, but it does not help you learn much. You have to be active and change things and make sure that you understand the relevance of what you're doing. Number two, you want to practice through repetition. A really forgotten ingredient that most new coders don't include in their learning process is to forget. Because you need to forget, recreate, until you can recreate the problem from any area, even though you forgot it for a very long time. And lastly, you have to create a system so you can remove roadblocks, you have to learn how to debug problems, and that way so you never get stuck. You want to really become an expert at this so that no problem can really be hidden in front of you as long as you have access to that code.